There's another edition of the On the Mic podcast, and I am your host, Mike Pendleton, with my MMA news. As we look forward to Bellator 274, I am delighted, finally, as I can say from him off camera, finally had the chance to talk to the one and only Christian Edwards. Christian, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. Obviously, it's a moment for you to get back in there and right the wrong after the last fight. Man, how does it feel to just be in this moment, right? We're approaching fight week. We're right around the corner. All that's in the past. And it's like, how do you feel coming into this fight week?
Yeah, for sure, man. I feel good. You know, honestly, that's like the perfect wording to use, honestly, is right the wrong, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I feel like in that last fight, you know, even though, like, of course, at first I was pretty devastated about it, you know, being my first loss and everything. Like, I felt like it was a valuable lesson that I needed to learn, you know, in order to make me a better fighter, you know what I mean? And it just goes to show, you know, in this sport, you can't overlook anybody, you know what I mean? Everybody comes to win, especially people that compete at this level, and anybody can land a lucky haymaker if you don't take them seriously enough, you know. And you know, now that I know that, I feel like I am a better fighter because of it. And now that's a thing of the past. You know, I won't ever make that mistake again. And if I lose, if I ever lose again, it'll never be in that way for sure. I guarantee. I promise you that, because you know, it's just one of those things. You know, everybody had theirs. You know, I feel like that, you know, those losses that made them the fighter that they turned out to be. You know what I mean? Anderson Silva had Rio Chonin in Pride. Stipe Miocic had Stefan Struve. You know what I mean? Dustin Poirier had Michael Johnson, and that was the Stefan Struve to my Stipe Miocic. That's the way I see it. You know.
I love that. I have to give you all the credit in the world for the mindset that you have. I know there was a lot of heavy comparisons to you and your former teammate, John Jones, you know, early on in your career. And, you know, I not to say pressure got to you, but I can say that I love hearing you take it in stride. You know, and that's a major credit to you as a person, not only as a fighter, but also, you know, there's not many. I believe there's only one undefeated professional MMA fighter, and he's now retired. So, you know, it sucks to ever say, hey, you know, at some point almost everyone falls. But with that, and I'm not going to harp on your last fight. We are here to talk about your next fight. But did it feel good once you got through it and you look back and you're like, all right, well, at least I'm now 5-1. It was just my sixth professional fight, and I can learn from it. And now I can go leaps and bounds, because I'll be honest, from this side, I think it makes you scarier, because the fact that you get to realize it so early in your career, and you get to face that adversity so early in your career, and you're going to continue to get better. It's like, oh, now his future opponents don't even know what's about to happen.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. That's exactly how I look at it too. You know, like I would have rather, if that were to happen, I would have rather it happen early in my career than way later in my career when I'm like 18-0 or something, and then I lose for the first time. I just don't know how to handle it, you know, because all I'm used to is winning, you know. And you know, like I genuinely feel like, you know, like for me to make a rookie mistake like that, I would rather do it early in my career, in my sixth pro fight, than, you know, way later in my career, where it's like, you know, Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman kind of situation, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it is what it is. You know, that's, you know, like that's in the past, and you know, learn from it. I'm a better fighter now because of it, and now, you know, like you said, you know, people will see very soon that that has made me a whole different type of beast. You know, like that experience. You know, and of course, you know, just staying in the gym, staying consistent, staying hungry. I didn't take any time off after that fight. I went straight back to training, right back to the lab, trying to fix what I did wrong. And now that I have, you know, I know for certain that it's going to be a long, long time before, if I ever taste defeat again, it's going to be a long, long time before I do.
I was going to say, I think I remember seeing on social media you were back in the gym like right away. And I was like, all the credit in the world, to you for that. But I got to ask you, you kind of talked about going back to the gym and getting everything right back right away. What was it like, not only getting back into the gym, was there a conversation with your coaches, with your team, where you're like, all right, we have to put this away. It's done. It's over. And now let's go, not reinvent Christian Edwards, but let's take all these little lessons that we just learned and let's apply them and let's make Christian Edwards 2.0.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, definitely. Honestly, truth be told, that conversation, it really happened like literally right after the fight. Of course, we talked more about it, of course, in detail, like once I got back to Albuquerque and everything. But once, after the fight, I remember I went back to the locker room and I was emotional. I was hella emotional. I had never experienced that before. I didn't know what that felt like, and man, I just remember I was just bawling. Honestly, I had no shame to admit that. I was bawling, and my coaches, Coach Joey, Coach Greg, they were just like, hey, Coach Greg just told me, he was like, I promise you, Christian, this is going to make you such a better fighter. You don't even realize it. He said, I've been here with Pico. I've been here with Holly. I've been here with Michelle. Everybody in our gym that to be great fighters, I've been here with all of them. And I promise you, they all took that loss to heart, and it made them a better fighter. And you're the exact same way. And I promise you're going to be a better fighter because of this. And I just took what he said into consideration, and I believed him. I have the utmost respect for my coaches. They've been in this game for so long, and I believe everything that they tell me. And as soon as he told me that, I just, I took it to heart, and I was just like, okay, coach, I believe you. And that was that. And then of course I talked to them more in detail about it afterwards. Like Joey, he's 40 pro fights, in his career. Had a long career and a very good career too, fought in some very high level organizations, and he told me the same thing. He's like, Christian, I've been there, man. Like, it sucks. Like, it's devastating. But, like, we all learn from our losses. Anybody that does this, like the way that we do, that is as committed as we are, like, we all learn from it, and it only makes us better. Like, you'll be back, I promise you. And that, that was that, and I ever since then, I've just had a way better look on like a way better perspective on everything. Like, I understand, like, it's just part of my journey, and that's just that. On to the next now. It doesn't stop I know I'm still on the fast track to becoming world champion. I just have to believe in myself and believe in my capability and believe in my coaches, and I'll get there sooner or later.
I got to give you all the credit in the world. You have a beautiful mindset with this fight game and the way you approach everything. My hat's off to you on that. And you talked about the next thing. Take on Kevin Hayley at Bellator 274 on February 19th. Two things I want to give you credit for as well, and kind of your team credit for. You've had the opportunity to train at Jackson Wink. You just talked about your coaches and some of your teammates in there right from the beginning of your career. That's not something that most fighters get, the luxury to have Jackson Wink team in their corner so early on in their career. And also, you fought every career fight of yours with the Bellator promotion. Before I talk about Bellator, I want to talk about your gym and your teammates. What is it like being at Jackson Wink with that history that they have, the teammates that you have, the coaching staff that you have, and everything kind of falling into place at such an early part in your career?
Honestly, man, it really is just such a blessing. Moving out here was the best decision I've ever made in my whole life. Like, it literally changed my life, and I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if I hadn't moved out here. I genuinely believe that, because of course, like, once my manager signed me, he told me, he was like, hey, Coach Wink, I talked to him about you. We're doing like a scholarship kind of thing, and we believe you're the perfect candidate for it. Like, are you interested? And like, the way I see it is, nobody that's successful ever got where they were without taking a little bit of risk. You know what I mean? So I fucking took that risk and said, you know what, yeah, let's do it. Like, why not? And it paid off, thankfully, yeah, man, being out here is like, this is my home. I'm never going to go anywhere else. I'll always be with Jackson Wings. It's my family, and you know, like even like you know, like my teammates like Davion Franklin, that's my brother, genuinely, like really, you know, that really is my brother, and you know, like this is my home. I'm staying here forever, you know.
I wonder if you guys talked before you guys did this interview, because I was literally going to ask you, that was my next question about Davion Franklin. Talked to him yesterday, and he said, you know, I asked him about you, and he said, you know, you're not just a brother to him because you guys fight and you guys are both fighters, but he said, you know, you are genuinely as a person, on a personal, you know, not just a friend, but you're an actual brother to him. What is it like to have that kind of camaraderie with somebody who's also coming up in this fight game like Davion is?
You know, honestly, man, it's just phenomenal having him as a teammate and as a friend. You know, just because like the way that we are with each other, you know, real recognize real. That's the way I see it. You know, and he comes from humble beginnings, just like I come from humble beginnings, and you know, like I know how bad he wants this. I see it in the way he trains, the way he talks, and especially the way he fights. You know, like I know how bad he wants this, and I want it. Like we both want to be world champion one day. You know, we both will be world champion one day. So it's nice to fight on the same card because we genuinely feed off of each other's energy. You know, like I love it when we fight on the same card. You know, but even when we don't, it's still nice to have him in camp. You know, just his presence, you know, it motivates me seriously. Just like I know for a fact my presence motivates him, you know, because it's we both recognize that in each other, you know, that hunger and that drive, you know.
I got to ask one more on him, and then I will ask you about your upcoming fight. I don't want to keep you too much longer, and I do appreciate your time. You know, in this fight game, one of my favorite things about it is the mental capacity that you fighters have to not only focus on the task at hand, but how you guys handle your career. And you hear the word manifest a lot. How often, or maybe has there been just one time, have you and Davion sat down and looked to the future and said, we're both going to be world champions one day, and you're both with Bellator, you're one weight class apart? How often, or do you guys ever have that talk, like we're going to be there? It may be this year, it may be 2 years from now, maybe 3 years from now. We're both going to be in this gym representing Jackson Wink with Bellator world titles.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. We actually have that conversation a lot, believe it or not. Really, I mean, like at least once a week, honestly, seriously, because you know that's you know that's the goal. You know what I mean? Like I'm in this to be the best in the world, you know, and then even after I become champion, like I want to strive for more. I want to achieve more, you know, and I see that in Davion too, and that's why we talk about it so much, you know, is because like that's otherwise, you know, why am I doing this if I don't want to be the best, you know, and that's the goal, you know. I'm striving for that, you know, to keep climbing up the rankings and earn my way to the title shot and win the belt, you know, and whether it happens this year, next year, or the year after, you know, it will happen. I genuinely believe that. I believe that's my destiny, and I know that that's Davion's destiny as well, you know. So I feel like it's almost like it's almost poetic, almost like how we're like both like so close, but we both know what we're destined for. You know what I mean? We both see that in each other. You know what I mean? It's like some real like crazy shit. You know what I mean? When I think about it, you know, it's like I feel like we were really meant to cross paths, you know what I mean, like in this lifetime.
And you mentioned your management and Methadone management and the scholarship, you know, program that you were put on that led you to Jackson Wink. And we also mentioned you fought for Bellator your entire career so far. What has it been like fighting, you know, under the Bellator MMA promotion, and really they've really pushed the Christian Edwards machine. As you go, they go.
You know, man, it's honestly, it's been such a blessing fighting for Bellator. You know, like I really cannot complain about my experience with them at all. Like they take care of the fighters. They definitely run a great show. You know, and I, you know, I love my experience with them. I love fighting for them. It's definitely where I'm meant to be. You know, and I feel like, you know, like this is my home. You know, and I want to prove that, you know, this is gonna be like the foundation of my legacy. You know what I mean? Like Bellator is the foundation of my legacy, you know, and people will remember me for the things I did in Bellator. I feel like genuinely, you know, and you know, like of course there are, you know, like obviously like people talk about the UFC and like people talk about like, you know, Bellator and UFC and how, you know, some of the UFC fighters that are currently doing great things in the UFC, how they would stack up against Bellator fighters and blah, blah, and stuff like that. Of course, that just comes with the territory, whatever. But, you know, honestly, I'm not looking at anything else but Bellator right now. I just want to prove that I'm the best light heavyweight in the world. And if I have to do that in Bellator for the rest of my career, then so be it, because Bellator, I feel like, has just as, if not better competition than the UFC, honestly, because they're both, you know, it's the best in the world, you know, like, I mean, you can't look at people like Vadim Nemkov and Corey Anderson and Phil Davis and say that that's not the best in the world. Like that's high level competition, you know. And of course, you know, UFC has killers too, obviously. I mean, obviously, but you know, I mean, honestly, Bellator is where it's at right now, and it's my home for sure.
Hard to argue that. And just a couple more here, and I again appreciate your time. I'm not going to ask you about the Bellator 274 matchup because something you just said kind of clicked with me, and it's going to change my question. Instead of asking you what you think of your opponent, I mean, if you want to tell me what you think of your opponent, I'll take it. But how are you going to? You mentioned you want Bellator MMA to be the foundation of your legacy. What is Bellator 274 going to mean to the legacy of Christian Edwards?
Honestly, man, I genuinely feel like after this fight, people will see the best version of me that they've seen, like the best version of me that they've seen yet. You know what I mean? Like I really feel that way, and I feel like this would be the breakthrough fight where people are like, oh whoa, you know, like Christian doesn't give up when he faces adversity. If anything, adversity just makes him strive harder and stronger. You know what I mean? Like I think it's gonna open a lot of people's eyes, especially the way that I look in this fight and the way I get the job done. I think people are gonna be like, whoa, this guy's the real deal. Like, and he doesn't fucking back down when he faces adversity. If anything, adversity just pisses him off and makes him work harder. You know what I mean? So I think as far as my legacy goes, this is going to be the breakthrough fight where people are like, oh man, that's a whole different beast right there, you know.
With that said, what should we expect at Bellator 274 when you take on Kevin Hayley?
I would say just expect a ton of violence and a dominant performance on my behalf. I mean, I know that he's coming to win. I'm not overlooking him by any means, and I want the best version of him. But I know what I'm capable of. I know my skill set, and I believe in my coaches, and I'll get the job done. And I do believe I can win this fight, and I believe I will win this fight.
Calling it your breakthrough, how does it set the rest of this year for you? I mean, you're fighting in February, you know, just starting off Bellator's calendar 2022. How does this set up for the rest of your year, looking at this as your breakthrough fight?
Hopefully, after this fight, they can get me in there. I don't want to be inactive this year. I want to be active. I want to fight at the very least 3 times this year, because I fought a total of only like 2 times last year, you know. And of course, there were a couple fights that fell through. There was like 2 fights that fell through, you know. And so that's, you know, I understand things happen every once and again, you know, but I want to fight at least a minimum of 3 times this year. So I want to be active. So if they could get me back in by like May, I would be perfectly fine with that, honestly. And hopefully, you know, by the end of the year, they're talking about me in the top 5 at least, you know what I mean, at the very least, you know. I hope, you know what I mean, we'll see. But if anything, I think for sure they're going to be talking about me in the top 5, if not fighting for the belt. That's what I see for sure.
It sets up for a very exciting 2022. Like you said, Bellator 274 will be your breakthrough fight. I'm sure you're going to get asked this question a lot. You've probably been asked this question 100 times already, and you'll probably hear it again on Fight Week. But it would be dumb of me not to ask. Do you want the Ben Parish fight back at some point?
Honestly, man, at some point, I would love to get that back for my own, like, peace at, you know, like peace at mind and clarity. Of course, I would want that fight back. But if I'm being honest, you know, after the way that he looked in his last fight, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. Because I feel like a lot of people know it to be what it really was, honestly. And it was just, you know, I beat myself, honestly. I'm not taking anything away from him. you know, he capitalized on a very rookie mistake on my behalf. I overlooked him. He knew I was overlooking him, and he capitalized on it. And he swung a haymaker and it landed. You know what I mean? Like, good job to him. I'm not discrediting him at all. You know, he did what he had to do. But we all know that 9 times out of 10, I would win that fight. You know, especially if I'm taking him seriously. You know what I mean? And then actually not coming in so playfully. You know, because I tell people that ask me about that fight, like I tell them, like, I'm like, okay, not overlooking him, not being cocky. I am more skilled than him. That's just facts. You know what I mean? I am, you know, and I feel like everybody else knows that too, you know. But if you listen to what he says as soon as he wins the fight, first thing he says is, don't think you're better than anybody. Don't ever overlook anyone. You know what I mean? Like, he knew that I was overlooking him, and it was a good game plan. I'll give him that, you know, for sure. Like, I mean, he knew that was what I was doing. But man, I can't ever see myself losing that fight ever again. Like, that was one out of 10. You know what I mean? But I don't know if they give him another chance, because I don't even know what his future looks like after that last fight. Honestly, I really don't. So if they give him another chance, then of course I would love to run that back. If he has a future in Bellator, of course I would love to run that back. But we'll see, man. Only time will tell, honestly. You know what I mean? And who knows? Honestly, really, who knows even if he would want to run that back? You know, because he, you know, like, he kind of, I'm not gonna lie, like, he kind of pissed me off a little bit, just because he kind of used this whole little, like, story, like I was like a kind of like a bully or something like that. But I did not say one disrespectful thing to him at all. If anything, I was nothing but nice and respectful to him the whole time. You know, you know what I mean? I remember I literally, when our first fight fell through, because we were supposed to fight 3 times, and that was the third one was the one that actually happened finally. But the one that fell through, when the doctor didn't clear me because something was wrong with my heartbeat or whatever, he, you know, like, I saw him at the bar, you know what I mean, after the fights were over, you know, and Davion did his thing against Tyler King and all that. We went out to the bar and we celebrated, and I saw him, and I bought him drinks. I bought his coach's drinks. I freaking was like laughing, joking with him, all that good stuff. So it kind of just pissed me off, because I'm like, I've never been a bully in my life, you know what I mean? Actually on some real shit, I was always the one fucking getting bullied as a kid. You know what I mean? That wasn't like, I was, you know what I mean? Like, I was growing up in elementary school, I was one of like fucking 8 black kids in my school. You know what I mean? Like, I got bullied a lot. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, I don't know. It just kind of pissed me off that he would like use that as like as a story. You know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of, I don't know, kind of a low blow, I feel like. But it is what it is. I don't know if he's going to want to run that back, because angry Christian is not a Christian you want to see standing across from you in the cage. I feel like, genuinely. So we'll see, man.
Well, I'm sure we're getting an angry Christian and a breakthrough Christian at Bellator 274 when you take on Kevin Hayley. Christian Edwards, thank you so much for all your time. Again, I give you all the respect in the world for how you faced adversity and have handled adversity and how you're looking towards the future of your career. I'm very, very happy we finally had a chance to talk. Feel like I've talked to Davion Franklin about 100 times and you today for the first time. So I appreciate you making the time for me, and all the best. And hopefully we can talk after your fight.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, man. Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.